Hello everybody, welcome to and thank you for attending this session, Cloud Infrastructure Step 1. My name is Mark O'Loughlin, the Managing Director of Red Circle Strategies and Cloud Credential Council. But more importantly for this session is our panel of experts who I'm going to ask to join me on stage here. We have Cathal Sheridan, Technical Director of Infrastructure, Paddy Betfair. Take your seat. We have Tim Pitcher, Vice President, Cloud Infrastructure, NetApp. Tanya, Duncan, Managing Director, Interxion, and Thom, Leggett, Director, Cloud, Oracle. Thank you very much, panel. Take your seats. Some microphones there as well. Microphones are on.
Testing. Yep.
Fantastic. Okay, before we begin, establishing high-quality cloud infrastructure at an early stage is not only paramount to future scalability, it also saves you from unnecessary cost and potential disaster. Well, at least that's what the marketing tells us. Hear from those who did it themselves, how to approach building your own cloud infrastructure, and learn some of the do's and don'ts. That's what our panel are here for today. So, to get started, you all work for organizations which have had different reasons and different needs to go to the cloud. So, we're interested in hearing how did you or some of your clients approach their cloud journey at the start? But what was, I guess, the key first step for either yourselves or some of your clients? Tim, we start with yourself.
Thank you very much. So I work for a company called NetApp, and we provide the infrastructure for companies as they try and build out their clouds, whether that be service providers, telcos, hyperscalers, or major enterprises and small mid-sized companies that they build their own technologies out. So we have kind of an interesting perspective on it because we see a lot of people doing that, and we find that the ones that are most successful, as they think it through, they really understand the end game, the journey that they want to go on. There's lots of different paths that you can take with this, and if they really do understand where they're trying to get to, what services they want to offer through the cloud, critically what they don't want to do with cloud, then that's a much easier journey, a much easier company for us to be able to work with.
I think it's very important what they don't want to do with cloud, but somewhere else as well. Fantastic. Yes. Cathal from Paddy Betfair. From a first step perspective, what did you look at?
I just noticed a couple of my suppliers are sitting here beside me. It's been a very rocky journey. It's been terrible. Okay, well, I'd say the first step is a difficult thing because I'll follow your point a little bit. It has always been for us based on business need. Different parts of the company took different journeys. It's a very large company, so the data analytics people, when they passed traditional BI, went into the cloud because we needed the compute. Workplace got onto Office 365 just because we have a principle of not owning or developing non-differentiating technology. Our retail business had suppliers in the cloud, but then the bit everybody wants to talk about is the online workloads themselves.
Yes.
And again, it was business need, but it wasn't to do with cost, actually. We had a problem with speed of delivering software. We needed to be able to get to services for everything. Everything was as a software, all the infrastructure. And we went private cloud for regulatory reasons. But again, we made sure it wasn't a solution looking for a problem. There was always a need for it.
I think that's very important. Tanya, from your perspective?
So we're not an end user per se, but obviously as a data center provider, we're part of the bedrock that underpins the cloud and everything that goes with it. But sitting around with our customers and listening to the discussions they have when they are taking these first steps and considering these first steps are exactly what Cathal says there. The ones that understand the business needs, the business requirements, understand who their end users are, understand what that journey is, as you say, what the end game is, are the ones that are most successful, because they can then distribute and design their architecture to, so it's fit for purpose.
Yeah. I think that's a key point, fit for purpose, isn't it? Didn't a lot of people go seek cost savings in the early days of the cloud and then realize we don't have quite fit for purpose? Or we've been chasing the wrong thing. Yeah,
and I think cost savings aren't necessarily the most important factor now. I think actually security, where your data resides, those things are far more important. And I think that in this conference for the last 2 days, that's one of the biggest points for everybody is data protection, security, where it resides, GDPR, all of those good things are.
Yeah, fantastic. Thom, from an Oracle perspective, either from Oracle, your cloud, or from your clients, a first step key first step perspective?
So I'm going to echo exactly what the other panelists have said. Understanding why you want to move to the cloud, why you want to develop cloud infrastructure is probably step zero. What are the benefits you're looking to get from it? As my fellow panelists have said, cost is not, if you're moving to the cloud for cost reasons, you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. Security, lower security, not maintaining an undifferentiated thing yourself is really important. And GDPR, data governance reasons are also very important. So step zero is understanding what your applications are, what you want to move to the cloud, and importantly, what data those applications are going to rely on, and what data governance issues you might have around those applications.
Step zero, interesting point. Do you think some companies that have gone into cloud have to go back and relook at what step zero is or should have been for them?
Yeah, I think so. We see it happening. We see a lot of folks, a lot of customers having shadow IT running in the cloud, right? Yeah. So developers have gone and put credit cards down, spun up an AWS account, and are running workloads in there. Now, you've got to look at the reasons that they're doing that. Yes. It probably means that they're not able to get what they want from your internal IT organization. So it's as much about understanding what the gaps are there and working out how you can provide those services to your developers.
Great, fantastic. Slightly similar, but with a different twist here, is not what are the key first step, but is there a piece of advice that you would share with the audience today, either from your journey or your client's journey? Just one piece of advice as opposed to the first step.
I would say plan to do it incrementally. Identify a small, well-bounded application, maybe some dev test workloads, move those to the cloud, understand and integrate the learnings that you get from doing that. Don't plan it to do it in one big bang approach. Do it incrementally.
It will never be a big bang, I don't think. Cathal, you have a mic there. Do you have any view on that? There are key lessons learned?
I sure do. So some points don't deserve subtlety. Don't build a private cloud if you don't need one. That's the first thing, right? It's a lot of fun, but it's quite difficult. If you do build one, make sure you know your suppliers very well. Make sure they know each other. They're going to be talking a lot. Yeah. If you go to the public cloud, use it at the highest level of abstraction. Don't go looking for vanilla virtual software in there. Use the tools that are there. Clean it up after yourself. Good principles, but try and hide as much complexity as you can down there, because ultimately, in our case, where we wanted to deliver things fast, you want your developers focusing on customer features, not learning a lot about infrastructure.
Yes.
Which
that's the point of it.
Some of them do want to, but that's not necessarily what we wanted, right? We think it's great, but no, stay away from the private unless you really need it. Public is getting very good, yes. Very, very good. Yes. It's a very viable, secure, scalable option.
Okay, we'll touch on that in a few more minutes on the hybrid varieties that are coming up, but we'll hold that for a moment. Tanya, from yourself.
Yeah, I think understand who you're buying from and what exactly you're buying. It depends on how you're funded, etc. How much budget you have for your infrastructure. But certainly, partners who are well, have a great reputation, who understand your business, who can really facilitate you into the future. So, for example, a lot of our clients would have come to us in the early days just simply for power and the connectivity. Yeah. Now, as their needs have evolved, you talk about how we talk about how we connect into the cloud, public cloud, etc. So, it's finding those partners that not just provide you with a commodity, but understand how you and this industry and technology is evolving, so you can get the customized solution that you need.
That's right. I think it's been evolving in technology, but also in supplier space as well, significantly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And Tim, any insights from yourself?
Yeah, you kind of proved the advice I was going to give, which is go and talk to people like him that have been there and done it. There's a massive amount of, it's a market that's moving incredibly quickly. It's a huge fundamental change in the way that IT is delivered and services are delivered. Yeah. But a lot of people have done that journey, and you don't have to you think that you're the first person doing it. Go and get advice. And just to pick up on the point, if I may, on cost in the cloud. If you get it wrong, it's expensive.
Yes.
And we are seeing that a lot. We talk to a lot of customers that have made the mistake of putting the wrong stuff in the cloud, and they're consuming budgets far more rapidly than they did when they were managing themselves on premise, and helping them out is paramount, really.
Yep.
I just want to come back to Cal's point about using the highest level of abstraction you can. I think it's great advice, because one of the main benefits that you're hoping to get from the cloud, I hope, is increased agility, and you're going to do that by hiding a bunch of the infrastructure details. But there's a flip side to that. There's a problem to that, in that if you start consuming these platform services, you are tied into that platform. So it's worth considering very carefully with each additional abstraction that you adopt whether there is a migration, a way out of that platform somewhere else.
I think that's good sound advice. Kind of have a look at an exit strategy while you're at the same time going into an ecosystem or a cloud, something like that. Again, a question could be, how often do we think about that? How are we going to plan for an exit? But again, to give you the flexibility. Interesting question here. I've been polling people yesterday and today. I had a list of 5 questions. Which one of these questions would you like me to put to the panel? Not surprisingly for me, but this came as the number one they wanted to put. Do you think people are now educated enough from both a business and a technical perspective to be successful with the cloud, or is there a gap? And should education have been perhaps one of the first steps? So what do you think of that one?
Do I think they're educated? I think I've noticed a few things going on here. First of all, there's a great community. Tim's right. You can go and talk to people. You can. There's plenty of people to talk to, and if you're not in a competing company, it's amazing how open and helpful people are. Yeah. There's much more critical thinking now. So things like vendor lock-in definitely is high on the agenda. Levels of abstraction. What am I really trying to solve here? Who's done this before? Can I copy a stack? So I think the education is there. I think it's moved on beyond, I would just save money. It's gone way beyond that. But everybody has their own unique journey here. It's different for everybody. And nobody can tell you exactly how to do it. You have to rely on yourself a lot. So I would say, yes, it's there. And the fact that we're talking much more about hybrid or multi-cloud scenarios proves that the level of knowledge, we've moved beyond awareness to actual critical thinking. So I think we're in a much better place now. Okay, good. Tanya, how do you see? And they're asking from about a technical and a business perspective, the business of what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's still, from my experience, anyways, it's still quite a wide range of knowledge and experience out there. So. Yeah, as things evolve and as technology evolve and as people learn almost on the job as much as anything else, and being part of that community and learning from one another, as much as there's formal education on these subjects as well. But there's a pretty still, in my view, a pretty large range in terms of knowledge out there at the moment. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thom, yourself from an Oracle perspective?
Yeah, I think the education's there. I agree with Cal. All of the major public cloud providers have very good education programs and accreditation programs that you can get your developers on. Increasingly, developers are exposed to this stuff through their daily work. And if you've adopted an incremental strategy to cloud adoption, then it's possible to do learning on the job in a low risk, maybe a dev test workload in a low risk area. And most of the developers I know, they have different learning styles, tend to learn best when they're learning by doing.
Yeah. And Tim?
So I joined a company called SolidFire that was acquired by NetApp. I joined them at the end of 2012. They're a cloud infrastructure company, classics of a US startup. And I can tell you back then, there was really no education. I mean, it has moved, to your point, it's moved very, very quickly. So if you are in any way a provider of cloud services or a company like NetApp, if you are not capable of providing education to your customers, you're dead in the water anyway. So I think it's really moved very, very quickly, and there's an awful lot of it out there.
Okay. Sure.
One thing to that. Don't expect it to stop. Honest to God. I mean, my opinion on where we should go, it doesn't change daily, but every 6 months I have to go, God, what I knew back then, I'm not so sure about it now. You have to keep at it. There's no sense of going out, learning it right, select these technologies, put 10 guys in a lab and get on with it for 2 years and see what comes out. It's not like that. Quite often, if you do that, the technology in the open source world will move past you. So you have to keep up to date on this thing. There's no, I've got my degree, I'm ready. It's a lifelong thing.
It is a lifelong thing now. I got handed just on the way in a very, a sneaky question. We're 30 seconds on this one. It's very interesting because it just reinforces what you're saying there. If an organization created a cloud strategy 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, should they be revisiting that, and how often should they revisit that strategy?
They should get a time machine, go back about 4 years, and have a look at it again. I would say yes, 100%.
Yes.
We see them all the time. It's amazing, interestingly, but the 4-year window, 3-4 years ago, you'd meet a lot of customers who'd say that their mission is to put everything in the public cloud, and they are absolutely not doing that now.
Yes, fantastic.
Yeah, and I think all of the research shows, and a lot of the analyst reports show, this shift to hybrid and trying to utilize the best from everything that's available out there. And I think that's come from what's been learnt over the last 5 years or so, and it is constantly evolving. So it's about giving yourself the best chance in terms of giving you the flexibility, the agility to move to give you options as technology evolves, as your users evolve, as your business evolves, etc. So it's
and that means as your strategy evolves. So we should be seeing evolving strategies on a regular cycle, rather than we created this 5 years ago and this is the strategy.
Oh, absolutely. And 5 years in this industry is dinosaur stuff. Yeah.
Sam, anything else from Oracle there, from the strategy?
Yes, so we definitely see different strategies being adopted by our customers today compared to 5 years ago. I think it takes folks a long time to uncouple themselves from that 5-year data center refresh mindset. AWS, Oracle, Microsoft are releasing updates to their cloud services on an almost weekly basis. There's new features and improvements. You need to stay up with that stuff, because those are things that you don't need to be doing anymore. You can let the experts do it for you. So yes, you need to revisit your strategy continually.
Fantastic. Final one we're going to look at is a newer development now is hybrid infrastructure. That is the mix of private, public, traditional data center types of services. And it's becoming more and more common. What, in your opinion, would be a good first step for organizations who are now having to deal with this hybrid variety of infrastructure like they've never seen before? Who wants to take that?
Cathal? So from our... it's okay. I mean, from our perspective, we operate in all sort of 3 theatres, and we're also trying to find ways, or we have technology that allows customers to sort of move data between those 3 points. So what we typically see is that very often the customers have got more traditional constraints that are preventing a lot of the decisions that they want to make. If you think of the data center footprint that's out there in the world today, an awful lot of it is more traditional. An awful lot of it is a lot of money wrapped up in assets that organizations have that they can't just move quickly away from, which is why, a lot of the born in the cloud companies have that advantage, that sort of day one competitive advantage that they have.
Great. Thom, yourself?
Yes. So we've seen folks adopting we have a managed private cloud offering whereby we can put boxes into your data center and we manage them for you. We've seen unexpectedly great take up on that. The other thing that we're seeing a lot in the marketplace is Kubernetes, and Kubernetes being used as an abstraction layer for your infrastructure, so that if you are adopting a multi-cloud or a hybrid cloud, you're deploying to Kubernetes in either of those environments, and it gets rid of some of the differences, erases some of the differences between those clouds.
Great. Cathal, you have a mic there? On the hybrid infrastructure?
Hybrid infrastructure is a term that can be used for someone who's built up their infrastructure like a medieval castle. Each king adds their own bit, but I think it's just a simple case of cut your cloth. Different workloads, go in different spaces. Nobody has the money after many years to uproot absolutely everything and put it in one place. It's just a fact of life. It just happens. What you want to make sure is it doesn't become unmanageable. Yes, if you can take workloads and move them around, that's fantastic. But I think it's a fact of life. I wouldn't feel bad about it. It's just the way it's going.
I love that. Cut your cloth. Fantastic. Final word, Tanya, to yourself in this hybrid space.
Yeah, I think one of the key words there is it's got to be manageable. Absolutely, and as I mentioned before, kind of flexible and agile enough for you to do what you need to do when you need to do it. one of the key things, obviously, as well as also security and public connections to cloud, etc., which I think a lot of the data centers out there, like ourselves, have now got private connections to various cloud service providers, which is really similar to yourselves. We've seen a massive uptake in that because you can seamlessly connect to the cloud and utilize your hybrid infrastructure as best as possible. So it's a natural evolution that's happening.
Looking for there's interoperability and the flexibility between multi-hybrid cloud environments.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Panel, the clock down here tells me we're up on time. The angry guy at the end is telling me we're up on time. We're up on time, folks. I'd like to thank Cathal Sheridan, Tim Pitcher, Tanya Duncan, Thom Leggett. They've been your panel. I think they've given you some wonderful insights. Thank you very much, panel.
Thank you.